Welcome everybody to the Giver Method channel. My name is Jake and I'm so glad you're able to join me. Now today we're going to be talking about the gift of presence and really how you can show up fully even when life gets completely busy. Now this is something that might be one of the most underestimated superpowers, that I see out there, especially with the scattered and distracted world that we have, and that's the gift of true presence. And I'm not talking the kind of presence where you're physically in the room while your mind races through tomorrow's schedule. Like, I'm talking about the kind of presence that can transform those ordinary moments into connection points that people remember for years and years beyond. I mean, let me paint a picture that might be uncomfortably familiar for some of you. Like, you're sitting at dinner with your family, but your mind is running through all the work problems that you have. Your child starts telling you about their day, and you realize you've been maybe nodding along to what they're saying, without actually hearing the words they're saying. And then later, you maybe start to feel that familiar guilt, like you were there, but you weren't really there, if you know what I mean. Or maybe, I don't know, you are an entrepreneur, a business owner in a team meeting, but while your colleague is sharing a challenge, you're mentally solving 3 other business problems. You miss the subtle frustration in their voice that could have told you something super important about team morale. Perhaps maybe you're an employee who's become so good at looking engaged while you're mentally checked out that you've forgotten what it's like to genuinely feel present. I've been there. I totally get that one. I've fallen into all 3 of these categories. You go through the motions, but the real connections that that maybe could advance your career as an employee, the fulfillment that you could be happening, around you, they're just not, and it is part of how that shows up for you. Now, what I've discovered through my own struggles with this, with scattered attention, and through working with thousands of other people, we often think the most meaningful things we can give is just time and our money and our advice. But the truth is, the greatest gift we can offer is being fully present. Your time is one thing, but are you actually there? Is the energy that you're putting into it there? Being completely available, in the moment with the people who matter the most to you. Now, in case you're wondering, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder and author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It came out in November. It's an Amazon bestseller. Since it came out, thousands of people have purchased it. It has tons of 5-star reviews. And everything we're going to talk about today is grounded in all the principles and things that are going to be here inside of The Giver Method. I highly recommend, if you have not gotten it, that you get yourself a copy of the book. I'll put a link down in the description so that you can go buy yourself. It's the best $10 you can invest in yourself. If you've already gotten the book, go leave a review. Go check out the other links below where you can find us on social media. Find us at thegivermethod.com. See the ways that we can help you as well. But once again, I recommend, if you have not picked up the book, that's where I would start. Go get yourself a copy. It's going to have a massive impact on your life. Now, I've learned that when one of the things I've learned as a part of this whole idea of presence is when you know what your gifts are and you use them as anchors, you use them to be superpowers, for presence, whether it's, it could be empathy or humor, problem solving, encouragement, or any other gift that you have. You just stop guessing how to show up and you just start showing up as your real self. Your presence becomes more than just attention. It becomes a transformation. Okay. So I want to dive through this, but before we do, if you find any of this valuable, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. I share content all week long, new videos, long form videos, short videos all the time. I don't want you to miss out on any of the things I put out there to help you discover your gifts and superpowers and make a greater impact in your life so you can live a more fulfilled life as a part of that. Now, at the same time, if you're hey, I've got a podcast or a platform, a stage, maybe you've got a community that you're man, they need to hear this message, then there'll be a link down below where we can connect as well. I'd love to talk about what that could look like and how I could help support your world. Now as we look at this idea of presence, here's the thing that most people don't realize. Presence isn't about clearing your schedule or having fewer distractions. It's about engaging your natural gifts in those moments, which creates instant grounding and authentic connection, regardless of how busy life is going to get for you. Because as a parent, an entrepreneur, an employee, any of those things, your life gets busy. When your gifts anchor your presence, others feel seen, they feel safe, they feel supported, and that's how you create true ripple effects in relationships that last far beyond the moment. So let's talk about this. We're going to dive through these 5 principles and help you to unlock this gift of presence together as a part of that. Along the way, if anything jumps out at you, please feel free to leave a comment, about what that is. I highly recommend you get a piece of paper. You might want to jot down some of the ideas as we go through them. So the first principle or idea is you have to recognize distraction disguise. Understanding how busyness masquerades as productivity when the busy starts to blur the moment. If we kick this off by calling out that thing, it's the question, most of us aren't, thing that we're never questioning, right? Being busy can feel like we're crushing it, like we're knocking things out of the park, like we're checking off all the list items. But sometimes it's a distraction, like in a really good disguise. Like we just notice it. I've been there. You're nodding along to your kid telling you about their day, but your head is like solving tomorrow's business fire, mentally rewriting that email you forgot to send. Like you look present, but you're actually somewhere else entirely. It happens all the time, especially when you've got so many things going on. Science totally backs this up. Like there's all sorts of things around. The researchers at MIT found that we don't really multitask, like shocker. Book by Todd Herman, The Alter Ego Effect, and when he starts to talk about people and their peak performance, there's this idea of how long it takes your brain to shift from one thing to the other. In these different research things out there, like what turns out is we just switch back and forth between things really fast. And that switch eats up brain energy, leaving you more tired, the less that, and less tuned in with what's actually happening. Your brain needs time to catch up with what the context is of the moment, according to multiple people that are out there, like your brain doesn't fully land in the next thing, right? You carry this it's like attention residue from the last task, and it could last. Like I said, I know Todd Herman, Dr. Sophie Leroy, like multiple people out there talk about like they talk about there's a 15 to 30 minute window of this like attention residue. This I have to. My brain is still like winding down the work from what we just did, and it's now winding up the work for what we're about to do. But we feel like we can switch or do multiple things at the same time. Your brain just can't. That's why you can be home from work but still feel like you're in that last meeting. You're there but you're not really there. And the hard part is this distracted version of us can look responsible. It can feel like we're being productive, forward thinking, dialed in, but in reality, you're missing out on the stuff that actually gives life so much more meaning and energy. Your kids, subtle glances, your partner's tone of voice, like the way a team, a teammate hesitates before they speak. You're missing out on all these little things, all those moments that just require a full version of you, not your body to just be in the room, but your head and your heart to be a part of it as well. So let's talk about what can you do to actually work through this without overhauling your entire life, because that's not happening if you're a parent and entrepreneur, if you're working full time. So let's start small, really small. Like what I want you to do is pick a day this week and run this like a presence reality check for yourself. Again, there's going to be, you got to do it with no shame and no judgment. Like just notice how often your mind is somewhere else when you're with the people that you care about the most, right? Maybe it's a dinner or a meeting or a bedtime story. Like keep start keeping a mental tally. Like, was I actually there, or was I solving something from earlier? Was I trying to figure out something that's coming? Was I concerned about something that wasn't actually in the room? You're not trying to be perfect. You're just like I'm going to collect the clues so I can reflect on them. And later you can use a little tool that I call this mental location awareness, where a few times a day ask yourself, where am I right now? Like not physically where am I? Like I'm in my office and I'm surrounded by all these things. Like, no, where am I in this moment mentally? Like if you're in the kitchen with your spouse, but you're planning tomorrow's meeting, name it. I'm in tomorrow's meeting. That's it. This question, oh my gosh, it's amazing because it builds the kind of awareness that quietly reshapes everything. Presence isn't about perfection in any way. I don't think you can always be 100% present, but it's about noticing when you've wandered and choosing to come back. If you're ready to experiment with that, you could try maybe a one gift window sort of thing. Pick one daily moment, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at most, where you do just one thing. No background planning, no solving, just bring the full version of yourself to that space. That could be bedtime with your kids, could be a coffee break with a coworker. Those first few minutes of just walking in the door at home, just let there be space for you to be there, that you can use your gifts as needed, your empathy, humor, clarity, encouragement, whatever it is, let it land. Feel what it's actually like to be in that moment, not half there. Because here's the deal, when you think that being scattered is just that's how life is. It's busy, it's crazy. It's you stop thinking of the better way. But when you realize this constant busy feeling is actually draining your ability to connect, and be seen, it changes your approach. You start to see presence. Doesn't mean slowing down life or changing crazy drastic things. It just means showing up in the moments that already matter and realizing that your gifts aren't just things to use on these special occasions or when I'm working with a client. I can use those things in every aspect of my life. They're anchors that bring you back to yourself at any point. It's not about fixing anything that's wrong with you. It's just about recognizing, hey, the world is noisy. We got phones, watches, TVs, we've got meetings, we've got things. Like, we've got so many things happening around us. It's about recognizing, like, in that noise, your mind is full. But you still have the power to come back to what matters, like not forcing focus, but just activating part of you that's already aligned and already wired with real connection. You just need the reminder, that's all. Now, our second principle is like you have to identify like presence anchor gifts, right? Discovering the gifts that just naturally ground you in those moments. So I talk a lot about like the G in GIVER stands for gifts, which is your gifts and your superpower. So you want to find the gifts that just pull you back in. You know, something that just shifts presence instantly that it probably we're not thinking about. We're taught to be present by focusing harder or pushing away distractions. But what if presence is something, it isn't something that you're supposed to force in the moment? It's just something that you fall into when you're naturally showing up as your authentic self, which is you showing up with your natural gifts. Like these presence anchor gifts that you have, like you choose these specific strengths that you have that when you use them, you just drop in, you stop overthinking, you stop drifting, and you're just right there, fully in it, connected with the person in front of you, not because you're trying to, but because that like the gift automatically brings you there. Like I said, it could be something like an empathy when you've locked in on someone's feelings and it everything else seems to fade. Curiosity, like the moments where you're like, I'm gonna ask real questions. Like I want to know, I want to actually listen, because not just because I should, but because genuinely interested in what they're saying. Some of you find presence through humor, reading the room, lightening the mood, sensing when to drop the light, the right line that there needs to happen. Like it takes presence and some of you to get, you get grounded because that problem solving or explaining something in a way that finally makes it all click for someone. Like these aren't random strengths at all. Like these they're built-in presence tools, and you've got these types of things in you. And when you use them, you stop performing, stop checking boxes, you just start to show up as the real you. Now, the way that you can use this in real life, and let's break it down in a way that really works with a real schedule, right? Start with maybe a gift presence scan, where you think back over the last few days, like when did you feel the most grounded in any sort of an interaction, conversation, or engagement? Not just physically there, but really there. Was it a moment when you were helping your kid through a problem? Was it when you cracked a joke that lightened up a tense team meeting? Was it that you listened to a friend and everything else in the background just like faded away? Like look at those moments and ask yourself, like, well, what gift was I using in that moment? That's going to be an anchor. Then try building like, what's my personal presence list, where I'm going to be like, well, how do if I could have like a drop down of 3 to 5 gifts, which I believe every person has at any given time in their lives, like the things that just make you feel natural when you use them. And for each one, ask yourself, like, when did I use this? Does it pull me into the moment, or does it let my mind wander more? Do I feel more energized or more drained? Do people seem more engaged when I lead with this? Like, don't overthink it. Just like, let's just start noticing what's working. And if you want to get really into a rhythm, you could then like have the one gift focus, where you start the day and you're just like, all right, set an intention today, how I want to show up with more presence, and I'm going to use this gift to do it. Just choose one. That's it. You don't have to nail it all day long. You're just going to find the way that you can use that anchor in the moments you can do that. Like look at your schedule and say, well, I could use it there, I could possibly use it there, and just pre-plan it. I'm going to use curiosity today. I'm going to use encouragement more today. I'm going to find ways to compliment people. Like let the gift lead the way. Like this side of the thing, this sort of idea, like it matters because more than probably most people realize, because the truth is, like with distraction, with we often have this distraction and we're trying to force this idea of how we can be present, but present isn't about forcing it. It's not about like feeling like having the guilt that I need to show up in a certain way. Like it's not about that at all. It's about just alignment. When you know what your gifts what gifts will ground you in that moment, you don't have to chase connection. It finds you. You stop performing, you just show up. I need to show up as the perfect version of myself. I did a whole video yesterday about trying to show up as a perfect version, or trying to be perfect at all times, and how that is actually hurting you. You just need to show up with you, the version of you that is best when you're using your gifts to serve someone else in real time. When you do it, when you do it constantly, your presence just becomes magnetic. It makes people feel safe, and conversations go deeper, more meaningful relationships. Gosh, the R in GIVER is all about relationship riches. You develop those things. Now, the third principle or tactic idea that I want to hit on is like mastering a transition reset. It's like, okay, if I start identifying these places where I could be more present, I start finding the gifts that I can activate to create more presence between activities. Like I want to reset before I step in, really. This is one of the simplest, but like most underrated ways to shift out of scattered and back into grounded, and it's you use those between moments as reset points. And what I mean by that is that throughout your day, you're constantly transitioning between things. You're walking between rooms, you're getting in your car, you're finishing a meeting, you're hopping off a call, and most of the time you're probably carrying these mental leftovers, that residue that's there from whatever just happened straight into whatever's coming next. And your body might be there in the room, but your brain either is still solving that last thing or are racing to the next thing. If those moments of transition were just what if they weren't just those pass through moments? What if they you actually use them as your pivot points? Little doorways that you could step in to see a version of presence. I want to be more connected, more aligned with who I actually want to be with my next interaction. And that's this transition reset. It's using those small pauses, to consciously activate a gift before stepping in the next space and grounding yourself in that moment. And it doesn't take more time. It's awareness. It's great, finish that. Let me pivot and move into this next thing. Are you letting the moment shape you, or are you just steamrolling through it? How do you actually and let's talk about how you do it without complicating everything. So think about the doorway reset. Every time that you walk into a room of your house, your office, your kid's bedroom, pause for 2 seconds, take a breath, and pick the gift that you want to lead with. Maybe it's encouragement, as you get home. Maybe it's the curiosity before you sit down with everybody. Maybe it's empathy before the tough, parenting moment or tough conversation that you're going to be having with the teammate. You don't have to change the conversation. You just, change how you walk into it. And then you could try this, the commute shift, right? This is gold for entrepreneurs and parents, especially. On your drive between work and home, or back-to-back meetings, whatever it may be, take the time to be a grounded version of you for what's next. You don't have to overthink it. Ask yourself, what gift do I want to lead with when I walk in through the door? Maybe it's the team needs clarity today. Maybe my family needs humor. Just show up and arrive on purpose. I often do a thing where, as I'm driving home, I always talk to my wife on the way home. That's when we talk about work. In that 15-20 minutes, we talk about work between office and home. After that, the goal is let's be present. Let's be in the moment with our family. You could also apply this in virtual spaces, with a phone reset. Before you start your next Zoom call or hit dial on a conversation, might be a little tricky, but just take that single breath. Pick the gift you want to bring. How do I bring the empathy to this? How do I bring more patience to this? That one breath might be the thing that changes the whole conversation and how it unfolds for you. Most of the time, we think that we're too busy to be more present. And the real issue isn't time, it's carryover. You're dragging all that energy, it's burning through you, old emotions, unfinished thoughts, and into new moments. It creates that disconnect that's going to be there. That's what leaves us feeling foggy and reactive. The transition reset, it stops that cycle, gives you all right, I'm giving you your agency back. Let you choose in your day. Instead of rushing to the next thing on autopilot, you show up aligned and grounded and gift activated. And over time, those tiny resets become a new normal for you. You start to feel like maybe your old self again. Not just reacting, but choosing how you show up. And the best part is people feel it. Your spouse sees it. Your kids feel safer. Your team trusts you, not because you slowed down your schedule, but just because you learned to reset before you stepped in. I'm not going to bring that baggage with me. That leads us to the fourth one, okay? The fourth principle, which is practice this gift-powered listening. And so natural strengths to create deeper connections through that attention. Because truthfully, you're the only person that has your unique set of gifts and superpowers and experiences. So listen like only you can. Listening is one of the things that we know we should all be better at. But, most advice around it feels really generic. All right, we're going to make more eye contact. Don't interrupt them. Repeat what they said. Yeah, it helps. Trust me, I've struggled with these things and I've implemented these things over time. They do help on a surface level, but we're not trying to just check a box here. We're trying to create a real connection. And that starts with all right, I'm going to stop listening like a robot and start listening like only I can. And what I mean is gift-powered listening is using the way you are wired to truly tune into what someone else needs. Your gifts, it could be empathy where you're sensing their underneath, what they're feeling underneath the words. It could be your problem solving. You're naturally hearing what's not being said at the root issue of the noise. It could be encouragement and your ears just light up the moment when someone needs that boost. Listen in the way that doesn't drain you. It energizes you because you're tapping into what you already connect to best. The beauty of all that is that it stops being this technique. And just starts being an expression of who you are. You're not nodding just to nod. You're not smiling, just until it's your turn to talk. You're showing up with your actual superpowers, like curiosity, clarity, empathy, affirmation, or any others, and making someone else feel seen and heard. So if you want to do this and not have it feel like it's a chore, like you try this sort of a gift lens experiment that you can do, which is like for the next week, choose one of your presence anchor gifts that we talked about and bring it to every conversation you care about. Bring empathy, and lean into how they're feeling. Don't just listen to the words, listen to the tone. Problem solving, like stay curious. What's beneath the story they're telling me? If it's encouragement, look for the moment where you can say, like, hey, I'm proud of what you did and how you handled that. I'm excited for what you're doing. And then watch how people light up differently when they feel that kind of listening. And then you can take it a step further, of course, with you could have like a pre-gift a pre-chat gift check, where before I walk into a conversation that matters, like maybe with spouse, a kid, a teammate, whatever, like ask yourself, like, what gift of mine could actually help this moment? Now this helps you from defaulting into distraction and trying to maybe fix the wrong thing. Your child needs empathy more than advice. Your teammate just needs more clarity, not more brainstorming. The goal isn't perfection in any of this. It's just being aligned with who you are, that authentic self. You show up better when your gifts match what they need. And then one of my favorites, which is like the gift question trick. Like, let your gifts guide the kind of questions you ask. Like empathy, like it sounds like, asking people like, well, what was that like for you? Problem solving might be something like, well, what's the real challenge that you're facing? Encouragement could be like, well, what part of that are you proud of? Like, they're not fancy coaching techniques in any sort of way. These are just real questions that are rooted in who you are. They pull people into real connection faster. When you practice this sort of gift-powered listening, everything changes because, like, you're not just, suddenly a perfect listener in any way. Because you're listening with who you truly are, and that makes it way more sustainable. You're not forcing focus, you're channeling it. You're not zoning out mid-conversation because you're drained. You look like you lock in on what's being said because your gifts are active in that moment. And more than that, people feel it. Like I said, you're going to be more connected, deeper connections, more openness and depth, beyond if you're trying to multitask or I'm looking for effective communication or whatever. It's like, no, I'm going to just be here and real with you. And that takes us once again to the fifth and final principle, which is like developing gift-based like conflict navigation. And that's using strengths to create safety and resolution during difficult conversations. Lead with your gifts, even if it's hard. Something most of us don't like to deal with is conflict. I mean, it's weird. We just try to avoid it. Our brains are wired that way. When there's tension, with your partner, your kid, someone on your team, like these moments can feel really heavy and personal. And if you're like most people, when things get hard, the default is to do one of two things: shut down or go straight into fix-it mode. Neither one really gets you what you want. But what if you had that third option? What if instead of reacting, you could just respond and do it from the most grounded, like equipped version of yourself? That's this gift-based conflict navigation. Bringing your natural strengths and superpowers into the tough conversations, your empathy, your problem solving, how you stay calm, encouragement, how you any of those things. These aren't just like, it's not just for the good days. Like, we don't just use those things as part of being, because I'm having a great day. It's like, no, I'm going to use them on the hard ones to help get me through it. When you bring them to conflict, everything changes. And so the way you do that, especially without freezing or really flaring things up, start this before the storm check-in. Anytime you have a difficult conversation coming, pause and ask, like, well, what's one gift I could lead with here? What do I want out of this conversation, and how can I lead with my gift? If it's a conversation with your partner, about inevitable load at home, like maybe it's the gift of listening first. It's a hard talk with an employee. Maybe it's a gift of clarity that keeps the conversation respectful and focused. Like, the point is to pick the gift that aligns with how you want to show up, not how you're tempted to react in the moment. Now, the big one is the mid-moment reset. Like, when you feel yourself getting heated or shutting down, this is where this comes in. You can ask yourself quietly, like, what gift do I need to bring forward right now? Now, this one sentence shifts your brain from like a protection mode to contribution. That switch, like in how our brains are wired, that's where presence lives. And then practice, like, maybe start with low stakes, maybe a disagreement at dinner. And so that when the bigger stuff hits, it's a habit, not a hope. Don't try to practice that if you're having a really, really hard conversation on the very first try. It's not going to work out so well sometimes. But start using it, start doing it, because when those big ones come, it will make an impact. Lastly, use your gifts to ask better questions. We talked about that earlier. Like, things like empathy. And like I said, any gift or superpower you have, like these are just examples. It could be any, but like empathy is one that I talk about a lot, like where it's like, that's your place to where you can try like, what do you wish I understood about how you're feeling? If you're wired for strategy, maybe it's like, what would solving this together actually look like? These aren't, I'm not looking for you to have a script in any way. Like you're looking for invitations. You're not just trying to win the conversation, you're trying to deepen the conversation. Because the truth is every important relationship will hit its potholes, and that's normal. What determines whether those bumps become breakdowns or breakthroughs is how you show up in the moment. You can't fake presence in a hard conversation. People are going to feel it. They know if you're listening or just waiting to defend yourself. And when you lead with your gifts, especially the ones that bring safety, understanding, and forward motion, you're not just avoiding blowups, you actually build trust, real lasting trust, because you're not coming into the room as like the perfect communicator. You're coming in as your real self, anchored and curious, and trying to serve, not win. And that's the kind of energy that transforms any conflict into real connection. Now, before we wrap this whole thing up, like I do want to leave you with something that I really shifted things for me when it comes to presence. It's easy to think the most like meaningful things that we can give people is our time, the advice, the knowledge and skills we have. Maybe it's our money, but the truth is that like what people crave the most, and especially in such a busy world with all sorts of things happening around us, like what they crave the most is the thing that changes everything, and it's feeling seen, fully seen, feeling heard. And that kind of presence that's there with that, like it doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from showing up as your real self, anchored with gifts instead of stretching across like the 10 other things you have going on. Now we walked through these 5 ideas, like these principles, like not to give you more to do, but just to give you tools that bring you back to yourself, because you're gonna drift. Everyone does. Doesn't matter how much you work on this sort of a thing. But the win isn't being perfect, perfectly focused in every second. It's noticing when you're drifting and then having like something real to bring you back. That something is your gift. Now the next step is like, it's super simple. Pick one gift that helps you feel grounded. Maybe it's empathy, curiosity, encouragement, whatever, and bring that gift to the next meaningful moment you have. Let it lead, whether it's a conversation with your kids, a check-in with a team member, a time with your partner, or maybe it's a one-on-one with your boss. Try using the gift as your anchor and pay attention to how it shifts, because when you show up that way, grounded and not in any sort of a performance mode, you don't just bring presence, you create it for everyone else in the room. Your calm helps them breathe. Your attention helps them feel worthy. Your energy makes that space for real connection to happen. And you walk away feeling like you actually showed up with the things that matter the most. Now, this sort of a message, if it has resonated with you, if you want to keep exploring what it looks like to live through these gifts and superpowers, lead with presence, make deeper impact, then once again, that's where I'd love for you to get a copy of the GIVER method. The link down in the description will help you get yourself your own copy of it. It's not just a book, it's a roadmap of connecting with who you are and what you're here to offer, and like how to live in a way that feels good and real at the same time. So you can grab it on Amazon. Like I said, you can go find it, the GIVER method, Jake Talbert, or you can use the link down below. Hey, once again, if you lead a team, run a business, host a podcast, have a stage, a space, whatever, where you're like, man, this message could land really well, then reach out. Use the link down below to touch base. Let's bring this conversation to your world, because it's needed more than ever right now. The world doesn't need polished and perfect in any sort of a way. It needs the real you, the present and anchored, available you. And when your gifts guide that presence, oh my gosh, you don't have to force connection. It just happens, Then the ordinary moments, they become extraordinary. They turn into moments that people remember. Your presence is a gift, and your gifts that you have inside of you, like they're the doorway to that more presence. So please, take the time and implement these things. Leave a comment which things jumped out to you the most. If you haven't already liked the video, like it, subscribe, all those things. Go check us out on all the other socials. Follow us there. Check out the resources, free resources and services we have at thegivermethod.com. Let's keep practicing. Let's keep showing up, and let's keep creating the kind of connection that actually lasts. So with that, I will say have a great rest of your day. We will catch you in our next video.